All right, I'm about to start. Seeta Dalloo is a 22-year-old young influencer who hails from Blairmount, Region 5. She completed a bachelor's degree in social work and is currently employed at the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security as a child protection officer. Seeta is the president of the Blairmount Humanitarian Organization, and she also currently holds a position as the founder and coordinator of the Youth and Social Development Initiative. Thank you so much, Seeta, for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
No problem at all. I had to have you here. Caesar, as I said earlier, is one of my peers, a part of the Youth Influencers program under the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. So it was a no-brainer having her here. Could you tell us a bit about how your interest started within youth and youth development?
Well, I think I've always had an interest in volunteering. I've always been a part of mentoring programs. I've always volunteered at summer camps. And I think that's where it began during my early teenage years. And during the year of 2019, I actually started or hosted my first, coordinated my first summer camp, in fact. And that's when I fell in love with the idea of youth development programs, social development programs, and later in 2020, I actually founded the initiative of the Youth and Social Development Initiative. And so my love and my passion for youth development started very young, and it basically peaked as the years went by.
Okay, great. So, could you talk to us a bit more about what the Youth and Social Development Initiative is? And could you tell us what you would have done with the organization that was established? Well, the organization that you're president of, the Blairmount Humanitarian Organization.
Okay. So the Youth and Social Development Initiative started actually as through one of my social work assignments at UG. And I realized that it was very instrumental in my community, especially for the young children and youths who were pursuing their academic successes, whether it was Common Entrance or CXC, and they needed the help academically, but also I realized that much emphasis wasn't being placed on their holistic development, being social development, cultural development. And so the initiative was formed on that basis. And so it was basically me hosting weekly sessions every weekend, and children, youths would come, they would attend, and we would have a number of different activities ranging from arts and craft, cultural activities, sport activities, discussion of social issues, and of course, academic help. As it relates to the Blairmount Humanitarian Organization, I hold that organization very close to my heart because I grew up with that organization as it began with me, and I am still the president. Um, so only recently, the other day, we completed a fitness walk in commemoration of World Suicide Prevention Day. And I think that is one of our ground principle of that organization, that is to raise awareness on mental health issues, social issues that plague our young people's lives across the country.
Great, 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 great. I actually have two questions that stem from your answer. You talked about all that you would have done with the Youth and Social Work Initiative, Social Development Initiative, and the workshops that you guys would have set up. Could you tell me how effective those workshops were? And did you see a bit of a change with the young people that you were mentoring during that space of time?
I actually do see great impact in the lives of the young people that would have joined this initiative, both as volunteers and also as the ones that we would have been helping, the children. We would have seen major improvements not only in their academic life, but also in their social life. They've been able to develop holistically. They've been able, sorry, to learn a new skill, a new craft, and also they've been able to become more aware of social issues and also share it with their peers. So this would have had like more of a ripple effect, not just with the kids that were coming to the class, but also their peers would have been learning from them as well. And it also opened a number of opportunities for the young people in this program. One of my young girls, she would have entered a competition only last year, I believe it was, and she won the competition, and it was on child abuse. She had to write a poem, I believe it was, and she did excellent. And so most of our children would have excelled in different aspects, different co-curricular activities, and I think that is one of our major impacts so far.
Okay, and my second question from that statement, you touched on mental health, which, as you know, is something really dear to me. That's my entire platform. So I wanted to know, as a social worker, how do you think the topic of mental health actively, is an issue within youth and adolescent?
I believe that mental health is quite underrated, um, not discussed enough, especially with our young people. And that's why I commend this initiative of yours because we find that sometimes when our young people speak out, they're often seen as throwing a tantrum or misbehaving. It's never, oftentimes those symptoms, those signs go overlooked and they're misunderstood. So I think that is one of the main issues that we're having when it comes to having this conversation of mental health issues, how to recognize signs and symptoms. And that's also why a lot of our young people are sadly committing or attempting suicide because unfortunately they don't receive the help that they need on time.
I agree with you, and the thing about it is that I think it's something that we focus on and we notice in the Caribbean region in general is that mental health and any discussion surrounding mental health is kind of seen as taboo, and I feel like it's I mean it's how our parents were socialized and that's how
Socialized.
they grew up,
Mm-hmm,
they were taught to be strong and I commend them, they've done great jobs thus far,
mm-hmm,
but mental health is so much more than just seeing somebody and assuming that they're crazy or they're lunatics. It's
mm-hmm,
anxiety, it's depression, it's, you know, social anxiety to anything, it's nervousness. And I really wish that we had more conversations as a broader society on the topic. There's so much more that needs to be done to raise awareness. And I mean, I was talking to one of my friends the other day and I was saying, I wish there were more peer to peer conversations on mental health. Because
mm-hmm,
if you have an older person, no offense to the older people watching this, but if you have an older person speaking to somebody that's like 15, 16 about their mental health issues,
mm-hmm.
they wouldn't be able to relate to the issues that they're dealing with. A person that's
Correct.
16 or 15 would not have the same problems as somebody that's from 20 to 25.
Mm-hmm,
You need somebody to be able to relate to say, well, look, I would have gone through this. I understand how it feels and I empathize with you. Not somebody to say, oh, you're going to get over it. It's
mm-hmm,
fine.
mm-hmm,
Life
mm-hmm,
goes on. To be there to listen. Sometimes all they want is somebody to listen to, somebody to understand that, well, what they're dealing with is real and they should not be looked at differently because of that. So that
absolutely.
brings me to my next question. What do you think should be done to raise awareness to the topic of mental health in our country?
Personally, I think that we have some excellent programs ongoing, both governmental and non-governmental, that are targeting or that are in the process of targeting mental health issues. However, I do agree that more has to be done. There's always room for more work and more improvement when it comes to especially topics like these that are ever evolving, ever changing. And so like you said, there needs to be more peer engagement. Um, I think more awareness needs to be raised within school systems. Also with the parents, like you mentioned, because oftentimes you find our parents, they might not have been socialized to understand these topics, understand the terminologies, the science. And so if we were to bring awareness, educate and empower parents, then they would be more accepting in a sense to be on the lookout, be more vigilant. And as it relates to peers, we empower them to support each other, to lend an ear. Because as a social worker, through my experience, I learned that it's so important for young people to be able to speak, just to have an ear to listen, someone to support them. They don't necessarily need you to fix their problem, they just want you to listen to them. And so that's extremely important for us to teach compassion. Um, and that brings me to the anti-bullying campaign of our ministry. And I think that's a very important campaign because it teaches our young people to be compassionate to each other and to be kind at all times. Because when someone is struggling with a mental health issue, the last thing they want is to be bullied.
Exactly. I agree. And oftentimes you find bullies are just reflecting their own insecurities.
Mhm,
So even the bully needs to have some sort of conversation with somebody because 9 times out of 10 they're lashing out because of something that they're experiencing personally. So it's always a full circle thing. You're never the issue. The person being bullied is not the issue. The person that's bullying you is probably lashing out because of something that they're dealing with or maybe something that they've got going on at home, so deeper conversations need to be had about all of these topics that I mean, our generation, we're a bit more vocal in terms of addressing the topic of mental health. We're a bit more open in saying, well, look, I have anxiety. I'm dealing with depression. I've
mhm,
got PTSD from this situation. Sometimes it might be a bit, what should I say? It's not diagnosed, but
mhm,
we're grown enough to tell you, well, we're dealing with depression. We know what the signs are. And I believe they call it's active depression.
mhm,
You can never really tell that somebody is going through depression because they'll
mhm.
look just as normal as you and I,
Normal. Mhm,
right? You can never tell what they're dealing with. Sometimes you even just checking in once in a while might be doing so much more than you think that you would
mhm,
have done. Something as simple as that. And as you said, a lot of times persons don't want somebody to come and fix their problem. They just want an ear to say, well, look, I can sit here and talk to this person and
mhm,
they'll be unbiased. They're not going to judge me. They'll be
mhm,
open to listening to me. And yeah, that's about it. My
mhm.
next question, what would be your advice to somebody that wants to go into your profession? Probably wants us to practice as a child protection officer or to come a part of the Ministry of Human Services. What would be your advice to that individual?
Something that I've learned throughout social work, um, my studies and practice is you really have to have a love and a passion for social work because it really takes you on a journey of helping others and also building self, working on yourself. And so it can be very tiring, exhausting, and it can take a lot from you. But you also gain a wealth of experience and knowledge and insight, self awareness. So, for me, my advice is and my advice has always been to young people, if not social work, but anything else, if you aspire for something or you want to reach something, first of all, you have to know what you're passionate about. That's the first thing. Find out that one thing that you're passionate about, and then set your goal towards that, and you're bound to achieve it. Once you put in the hard work, you're bound to achieve it.
Indeed. And on a personal level, I could tell you definitely find what you're passionate about and run with it. So, I'm going to go on a rant here. I had started with law. I did law at sixth form, and I was so convinced I was going to be a lawyer. I would have progressed and I would have become a judge at the CCJ or something. I had all these big thoughts, right? I did law, completed it, and I just had this mental check, and I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Mhm,
So, thinking of something like that where you've grown up,
mhm,
you know, plot out what you want to do, you've looked at it, you've decided, okay, this is where I'm going to go. And then you just have this reality check that
Mm-hmm.
that is not what you love. Like you enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
but if it starts to feel like a task, then it's not for you.
Exactly.
And it took me so long to figure out, I was in denial, but I had the conversation with my parents and I was like, you know what? I don't think I could do cases for the rest of my life. And I just can't. I can't deal with it. I was really dramatic about it. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. I'm probably going to be a failure. I had all of these things I was stressing about. And I started my application to UG and I saw the international relations course and something clicked. I can't tell you what clicked because I hated foreign languages and that's the basis of the course. But something clicked and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do this. I loved politics. I
Mm-hmm.
loved everything to do with politics. I enjoy meeting new people. I love to talk. If you get to know me, I love to rant and talk about things that I'm passionate about. So that was a no brainer. And I do not regret it. I love what I do now. And it really doesn't even feel like a task. So, as long as you're passionate about something, you hold on to it. It's not going to be an easy process. You're going to find obstacles along the way. As with everything that you really love, you're going to find problems along the way. But it's how you deal with those issues and how you persevere to move forward. That's what's important. So,
I share a similar story to yours in the sense that law has always been something that I wanted to do. It still is. It is something that I have uh attraction towards, I should say. Um and my intentions with social work initially was it was my ticket to law. So I would complete my diploma and I'd go straight to law. And mine, as soon as I finished the diploma, I was like, I wanted to pursue social work. I fell in love with the subject. I fell in love with the helping profession and everything about it. And so I stuck to it and I completed my bachelor's. Now I'm a child protection officer and I completely enjoy what I do. I enjoy my job. And while I may want to pursue law in the near future, I can tell you that right now this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I enjoy. So that's why I would always say you sometimes you stumble upon the thing that you're passionate about. It might not come, you know, directly, but you stumble upon it and you just work towards it.
yeah, indeed, indeed. And I can tell you now, you go ahead, please. I need a lawyer. Go ahead, I'm all for it. But I can definitely tell that that's something that you're passionate about. One of the first impressions we had, I think we had our first challenge in the national park.
Uh-huh.
And I think that was really the first time we ever had an interaction.
Right.
And I was talking, I cannot disclose the name of the person, obviously, but
Uh-huh.
I was talking to a young lady and she said she wanted to have this conversation with you. And at that point, I did not know that you were her social officer.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, sure. And you came and you were so gentle with her. I tell you, I cannot forget that interaction at all. You were so calm with her and she had a bit of a she was having a day. She was having a
Yes.
bad day. And you were so calm with her. She ended up interacting with the other students and I applaud you for that. So as you talk about how passionate you are about that, it came back to me. I'm like, yeah, I remember this. This was our first interaction. That's what happened. So I applaud you, Seeta. You're doing an amazing job. I
Thank you.
am hoping that at some point I can probably see you work in person on your initiative. I would love to be a part of that in any way that I can. And that brings me to my final question. What are your long term goals for the organizations that you're a part of?
So I think my main goal currently is working towards sustainability. And so one of the things I've adopted is a volunteer program where I have young people now engaged in learning how to mentor others and to volunteer their time towards social activities and initiatives because I want to ensure that when I'm long gone, this will continue and the process of helping others will continue and young people will find a love for helping others, for bringing about positive change, for helping those that might be at disadvantage. I want to ensure that there is a platform set for young people like myself to find their passion and to work towards it. So I think my long term goal across the board is to ensure that platforms are built for young people to prosper and for them to grow and find their passion and work towards it. And especially those young girls and boys that are not afforded equal access to opportunities as some.
Ah, I love that answer. Oh my god, I might have to thumbnail it. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming out to have this conversation with me again. I'm going to continue saying that because I'm really grateful. And extreme thanks to the Young Influencers program for connecting us
I know.
because all love to Ria, everybody's favorite mentor. Thank you so much to her. And thank you for being here. This is
Thank
about
you
it
so
for the
much. Thank
questions.
you. And I really admire especially this program that you've built. I think this is a great way to start a conversation. And like you said, I am eternally grateful to the young influencers for showing me that there is so many people that share the same aspirations and the same passion for social work, even though you might not call it social work. For me, it's helping to institute social change. So thank you so much.
Indeed, I tell you, I feel like our entire group just clicks so well with each other because it's really difficult to find a group of persons that you can relate to on any level. I
Hmm.
mean, even when we all first met, it's like we clicked right away, like we've known each other
Yes.
like it was nothing, you know?
Yes,
And to have
absolutely.
meaningful conversations with a group of young adults, I wouldn't trade this.
Refreshing. It's refreshing.
Yeah, it
It's
is. It
empowering for
definitely
me
is. Hmm.
especially.
Yeah, it definitely is. So thank you so much, Tita, for being here. Please, please enjoy the rest of your evening
You
and
too.
have a great night.
Bye.
Okay, you can turn off the recording.
I think